We've got to get the Discord invite going here. Hold on. All right, place there. Shoot it up there. Pin it. All right. Hey, Bob, you're almost always first. Must be waiting with bated breath. Not even sure what that means. Bruce, Ringrose. Punch, what's going on? We're going to do some strumming here probably. Strumming's always a good thing to work on. And like I say, it's always more fun to strum to a drum machine than it is to strum to a metronome. But it's always good to practice to something that's keeping good time. You know, if you're playing by yourself and you've not practiced to a metronome or to a drum machine or something like that, your tempo is going to kind of go all over the place if you're not used to playing in time. If you're like, oh, I play by myself, so I don't really need to practice with a metronome, that's not at all true, because people are not going to want to listen to someone who's like. Of course, that's an exaggeration, but the thinking here is that you want it to basically sound like a song, and songs tend to have a tempo, and there is some push and pull on tempos. I don't disagree with that. Sometimes, historically, in rock tunes, before metronomes and click tracks and all that, well, not before metronomes, before click tracks, you would often have the choruses maybe be a little faster than the verses. That was not unusual, but yeah. And if you have a Mac computer, then it comes with GarageBand, which has probably an infinite number of drum patterns that you can play along with. So, praising Jaws, what's going on? Good to see you, Paul Meyer. Good to see you too. Peroni, excellent. So we were talking about embellishments, fills, and riffs. And basically, I get asked about that all the time. Like, how do I fill in and stuff like that? It just depends on what you mean. You know, I never know what someone means. So I say, how do I do fills? And I'm like, you mean solo, or do you mean do licks in between over chords, or leading from one chord to another? You know, what one word means to one person may mean something completely different to 500 other people. So, but like for example, if you're going from G to C, a fill might be. That's a fill technically. It's a lead-in. I wouldn't call it an embellishment, and I wouldn't call it a riff. I might call that a fill. Like a fill. Like imagine filling a hole. There's a gap, and you need to fill a hole. A riff. Riffs are similar. Riffs might be something you would play on top with someone else playing. A fill, I feel like, is more, and maybe I'm contradicting myself here from last week, but a fill is more something if you're playing by yourself and you just kind of have to fill in some space or make it a little bit more interesting. And that's kind of what we're talking about. Same thing with chord embellishments, the idea of just strumming an A chord for 8 bars, you know, not 8 bars, but 8 beats or something, 2 bars, or for 4 bars, or A to D over and over and over again. You might want to do something different to the A chord and to the D chord to make it a little more interesting every now and then. So, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. So yeah, I'm thinking we kind of did C, G, and D as far as chord embellishments go. You know, another thing, you know, one of the places where if you want to kind of try to learn some fills or ways to go between chords, if you listen to like country bass players, they're really good at that. I've told this story before, but I got asked to play in a country band, and I'd never played country music before, but they just wanted me to play rhythm or something. They think, oh, you'll know these songs. I'm like, no. It's not like, you know, it's not they were assuming I was like, grew up listening to country music because they did. And it's like, no, I don't know any of these songs, you know. On the Road Again? Well, yeah, I've heard it, but I don't know it. But God bless the bass player. He set me up for every chord. I could pretty much get through the set just strumming away by listening to the bass player, you know. And he was going. Or, you know, I could tell where he was going. So, you know, he's doing a fill, a bass line into the next chord, and it's telegraphing the chord. So I had almost 2 beats to figure out what the next chord is. So I was like, okay, if I know the key and I can hear the bass player, I'm probably going to be able to get through the song. And I did that for the night, and then never did that gig again. So that was it. Yeah, that wasn't my thing. I'm not, you know, I really not really played in any cover bands in the last. See, I've been in LA 40 years next month, and last time I played in a cover band was in Indiana in 1983. So, yeah, I don't really know a lot of songs. People are like, oh, can you play something? And I'm like, I don't know. And that's, for me, that's, you know, that was fun when I was a kid. And people don't usually ask me to play something now. That's not typically. What I like doing is I like making music out of something where there's no music. And so playing somebody else's music isn't necessarily what I like to do. But I play other people's music when I'm doing sessions. But this is music that hasn't existed yet, and they're writing it out and telling me what to play, and I play it, and there it is. It exists now. So that's what I like. But like I said, I'll play 100 tunes a day, and so I don't memorize anything because I'm on to the next tune, on to the next song, on to the next song. Disco Ministry, what's going on, man? Haven't seen you in a while. So, like I said, if you watched last week's video, I did some stuff I talked about the C chord embellishments we can do, some G chord embellishments we can do, some D chord. And I'm just going to kind of go back to A and then E. Chord embellishments, I'll hit on fills and riffs, things like that. I'm just going to kind of give an overview of this. I could talk on this probably for a year, depending on genre. Everything's different. You know, different genres are going to have different chord embellishments, different styles. Like, for example, over A, you know, if you're playing in blues, you might do something like that. You might go up to the 7th. I'm adding the 6th. I'm doing a 5/6 suspension. We're gonna talk about all the suspensions, the sus4, the sus2, the sus6. Don't usually call it that, but we call it a sus4. That's about the only one that gets the sus. But We'll talk about those because we're going to be doing an A chord, and it's kind of easy to see on an A chord. But you could also, that's a 6/5 suspension. You might also just, and that right there is much more interesting than playing just an A chord for 4 bars. I'm in 6/8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's kind of boring, but if I that's a little bit more interesting, and that's the same 6 that went. It just sounds different because the context and the genre is different, and so yeah, you can use some of the same tricks to liven up your playing to make it more interesting, and in different styles it'll sound different. So however you use it, all right. So let's talk about the A chord. A chord is always one of those ones where it's like, there's so many ways you can play an A chord. I mean, when I was a kid, I think I played it 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 like this. So nothing on the bottom string and an open, 2, 2, 2, open, and I played with these 3 fingers. But as I got older, my fingers get bigger. I found it easier to do it with these 3 fingers. Now it makes it a little bit of a drag because it's not as easy to go from that sus. I do it like that, where I slide my pinky up to get the sus. Or I might bar, and we're going to talk about that one too. But so there's 2 ways right there that you can play an A chord, with the first 3 fingers or with the second 3 fingers, I guess you could say. Have any questions? No. Bruce, thank you for keeping tabs if anybody asks a question. I appreciate that. Oh, hey, David Sillers is in the house. So yeah, these 3 fingers are what I tend to use. The flamenco way, interestingly, actually makes a lot of sense. Is to, instead of go 1, 2, 3 like this, it's 2, 1, 3 like the Los Angeles area code. They're all still on the 2nd fret, but it's one way to play it. It's actually, the flamenco way is this way. Now I think about it, which also makes sense. I'll show you that one. There's a million ways to play it, but I've seen people do this, and a lot of times they do this because they're going to E chord. If you're going to makes sense because you're just moving that first finger up and down the 1st fret, 2nd fret, or 1st fret, 2nd fret, 1st fret for E chord, 2nd fret for A chord, and then so that's a good little trick if you want to play A that way. None of these ways are incorrect. In classical guitar music, one of the things you learn is they will finger things, phrases, chords, whatever, in the most efficient manner possible, and oftentimes you will finger something in an anticipatory manner. In other words, you will finger something to make the next thing easier, the next beat, the next bar, whatever it is. So that might be an example of that, where fingering it. Sometimes if you're in the key of D. You might not need to play A that way, but if you're in the key of A, or if you're in the key of E or something, excuse me, it might make more sense to play the A chord this way. I was going to say the flamenco way that I learned is you basically is open A, and then you bar the next 2 strings with your first finger, and then you put your 2nd finger there, and then the top string can be open. But it allows you to add the 3rd fret and the on the 3rd string and the 2nd string with this 3rd and 4th fingers. Because that's actually, believe it or not, that's a fairly common tonality in flamenco music. but also they might do an A7 thing where they move the top. I don't know that we're going to do flamenco embellishments, but I just showed you one. If you play A7 and then play F on top and then G on top and back to F, that's a very flamenco thing to do. We'll go to D minor, because usually when you're playing an A7, usually it means you're in the key of D minor. So you're playing the 5 chord in the minor key, in the harmonic minor key. Don't worry, there won't be a quiz on that. Everybody take a sip for no quiz. Cheers. Everybody got some libations? Yeah, another 1,000. I got up to 112,000. Yeah, it's funny. It's still climbing, you know. And the revenues, it's good. The revenue was climbing for the last 4 months. I think it's leveled off. My view count right now in the last 48 hours is 6,700 views. So doing the live stream always has a bump. Like if I go back, yeah, I can see the bumps on my chart here of where the live streams were, because I usually get more views those days. But I may do another video today. I may do another one of those. I came up with 5 more of those jazzy chords in open or Dadgad. So we'll see. We'll see. I think I've gotten 1,000 views on that thing, so it's not really. Let me pull it up real quick. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, I've made a whopping $2.80 on that video. Not even 1,000 views. 948 views. So yeah, it's, you know, and I didn't really expect to get a lot. It's kind of a niche, you know, it's Dadgad and jazz. Those are 2 worlds that don't really blend, you know, merge very often. But I know Dadgad players are always looking for new things. Jazz players aren't necessarily looking how to play jazz and Dadgad. That's not something they're looking to do. But Dadgad players are always kind of thinking outside the box. That's kind of the nature of a Dadgad, or even open tuning players. So there's a percentage of Dadgad players that only play in Dadgad. They're probably from Ireland, but there is a percentage, probably I'd say 10 to 20% of them, that's how they always play. Maybe I could do that. I don't think so. My brain would, well, I'd have all sorts of limitations. However, so that, you know, they probably stumbled on those chords already. But the people that do it more as a hobby, the Dadgad's a hobby, probably find some value in that video. So we'll see. I'm probably gonna do another one. Like I said, I thought about doing one with like pop changes, like more like 1, 6, 4, 5 kind of thing. But we'll see. Let's see. I've got okay. Now, so other ways you can play the A chord. Some people can actually bend the first finger back like this, and I can do that, and just bar those 3 notes with the first finger like that, and get the open E string. I will bar often the A chord, but I won't really necessarily hit the E string unless I want that F sharp, that 6. Which is kind of a cool chord, but I will definitely do it if I'm going to be doing those suspensions, which we're going to talk about in a second. So these are chord embellishments over the A chord. All right, what are some other? Well, some people can get it with their 3rd finger like that. If they do double bar chord, that's the origin of the term double bar chords. You bar like a D, you bar at the 5th fret, top 5 strings with the 1st finger, and then the 3rd finger would get the 4th string, the 3rd string, and the 2nd string, and then leave the 1st string open. Well, I can't. My ring finger doesn't bend that way. It's like curling your tongue. I can't curl my tongue on the sides. 50% of the people can, and so I don't know what percentage of the people that can actually bend that joint backwards, but I can't. So I will play bar. I'll play bar chord. I'll play D like that sometimes. And I'll play A like this a lot actually. Yeah, so I'll play A like that probably as much as I would like this. It just depends on the context. If I really want that E string to ring out on top, if I'm strumming, then I'll do this. If I'm grooving, I'll probably do this. Like what I was just doing there is I would call that grooving. Yeah, we're getting some good rain. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Hey, Sam. All right. So now, let's see. So we got, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Anybody think of any other ways to play A? I mean, I'll play it like this or whatever, but I'm talking about with this actual voicing. I wonder if there's, I think I'll probably think of another way in a second. Okay, now if we look at those 3 notes there on the 4th string, 2nd string, and the 3rd string, N, B, C. All right, that the bottom one is the 5th. The next note is the root. That's the A, and the next note is the C sharp, which is the 3rd. So you have the triad right there. All right. So if you know your notes on the 3rd string, and of course, it's one of the things I really recommend is learning all the notes on the fretboard. I think it's generally one of those things you can learn that once you know it, you'll probably, as long as you keep playing guitar, you'll be using it and you won't forget it. Reading music, if you're not using it, you're gonna forget it, even if you're playing guitar. But because if you're playing guitar and not reading music, but you learn how to read music, you're probably not going to really remember a lot about it. But memorizing your fretboard is one of those things that will constantly, oh, thank you, Bob, will constantly come into play when you're looking at your fretboard and going, oh yeah, there's the 3rd, there's the C sharp, okay. You know, it'll help you learn theory. It'll help you communicate to other musicians, particularly non-guitar player musicians. If you're playing with a piano player, they may go, what note are you playing on top of that chord? And I'm like, well, that's an F sharp. It's a 6th. Oh, okay, I like that. I'm going to add that to my chord too. You know, that kind of thing. I felt like that was a very Spinal Tap moment. And so what are you doing there? What note is that? Well, that's an F sharp. Oh, I like that. I like that. I think I could do that. I think I could do an F sharp. If you've never seen This Is Spinal Tap, I've had friends see it. They thought it was a real band. It's top 5 favorite comedy. Probably is likely my favorite comedy of all time. Although I like Holy Grail, and I have to admit the other guys always makes me laugh. And that's a more contemporary film. It's usually contemporary comedies and older people. You know, like I hate to think of myself as an older person, but I am. And that's a fairly in the last 10-year movie, but there's some bits in that are just really, really funny. So I like Mark Wahlberg, and I like Will Ferrell. Also, by the way, if you haven't seen Spirited on Apple TV, Apple Plus, it's actually quite cute. So, and I guess I think YouTube will still let me say good afternoon without being censored or having to change it to an adult rating. But if you watch the movie, and it's a musical, and I'm not a huge musical fan. I mean, I love Sound of Music. There's certain, you know, I think I really liked King and I when I was a kid or something. But yeah, I'm not a huge like musical fan. If it's, you know, I'm sorry, I could not get through. I tried twice to get through. Oh shoot, what's that? What's the one? The American History one. Hamilton. I tried to get through Hamilton. I just couldn't. I couldn't keep up. Part of the problem was the rapping and the singing, and the rapping mostly goes by so fast. And there's 2 types of musicals. There's a musical where the songs pause the story and capture the moment, right? I would say something like, you know, Sound of Music definitely does that. Yeah, very little in Sound of Music. Very few of the songs in Sound of Music actually tell you that much more about what's going on. And maybe there's something about Maria or whatever, but for the most part, it's just a nice little moment. And but in operas and in, I think, what is it called? Musical. What's the term for it? It's basically a libretto that goes all the way through. Every word is sung. So you've got to track with it, and sometimes it goes by so fast I couldn't keep up with Hamilton. So, yeah, that's exactly where I was. Yeah, Jay Collier, it's exactly how I felt. I was like, I was digging it. I didn't have a problem with it. I don't care what color people are talking about. I don't care if black people portray white people or white people portray black people. Not that that would ever happen, but I don't really care. It wasn't cutting edge for me at all, because I went to a school where, people had to play parts that they, because they needed people. So, but I just was like, yeah, I'm out. I tapped out, and I tried to go twice. I tried to watch it twice. Anyway, I don't know why I'm bringing that up. Why am I bringing that up? But so we got the fifth here, okay? We have the root here, and we have the third here, a major triad. All right? And so if we're in the key of A major, the sixth is going to be, here's the fifth, the sixth is going to be an F sharp. So if you want to do the F sharp, you get that kind of rock and roll thing, right? Or blues. Okay, now, if you go to the third string, that's an A. The next note after A in the key of A is B, also 2 frets up. Now you might, that just sounds like a mistake, but that second kind of creates a kind of a pretty sound. It's nice. Now another way you can get the second is if you play the A chord and you open up the B string. And very, very common. So I'm going C sharp down to B instead of B A up to B. Now the difference between these two, for one thing, this is A, and I would write this so it's open, nothing on the bottom string, open, second, second, open, open. Yeah, if you hit that opening string, that usually doesn't. It may work. I got a better second inversion E chord for you, although it's not. I mean A chord for you, Sam, that I like better because it serves the purpose better of generally when you do a second inversion chord. It's usually to set up the 5 chord is usually what's happening. So I'll show you that in a second. Help me remember, Sam, if I forget. You play a pick strum pattern and then strum dynamics on the C F chord singing part strum. Can I do that? I don't know. Sorry. I don't remember. Was that what we did Wildwood Flower? That was a long time ago. I don't remember. Was that in C though? With the F chord? G? But yeah, I mean. Yeah, well, and I think of for the A to the A2 thing, I think of the Ticket to Ride lick. And as long as you're going back and forth between the C sharp and the B, I think you can just call this an A2. God bless you, Joseph. Is that for me to play it or because I played it? I don't remember. I'd have to do some research. I don't want to stop right now what I'm doing and do research, but as long as you're going back and forth between it, I think you can just call that an A2. Technically that right there, the open, 2, 2, open, open, would be an A2 no third. So there's no major or minor tonality there. But if you're going back and forth between A and that chord, then the assumption is it's an A2 or an A. So A2 implies A triad with a second added. A, B, C sharp, and E. However you do it. Now this for sure is an A2. So if I take that A bar chord and I'm playing the middle 4 strings, right? Now open 2, 2, 2, and I reach up, you know, you can use your pinky or your third finger out here for the 4th fret on the 3rd string. Well, then you do have, that's a real pure 100% A2 chord. You have an A, an E, which is the 5th. You have the 2 right there, the B, and the C sharp, which is the 3rd. So that makes it an A2 chord. An A minor 2 chord would be this. Okay? I'm going open. I love this chord. It's a beautiful chord. I can show you an easier way to play it, okay? But this is not easy. Try this one out. Well, and yeah, let me see if I have that PDF too, Bruce. I gotta open. I'm working. I'm in the middle of a project, and I'm trying to. Let's see. No, YouTube live stream. Oh, and Bruce, you asked me to do something the other day. Was that did you ask me to put the diagrams of the jazzy Dadgad chords into Discord? Was that what you asked me? I forget. It's in our text thread. I'll have to look it up. Okay, this is okay. Oh, here's Wildwood Flower. Okay. You're right. It does go to F. Yeah, I have it right here, so I can maybe play it. And so, yeah, Holly. Yeah, no kidding, right? So here's that. I'm going to show you an easier. Now, I'm not really on a minor chords yet, but chord embellishments, whatever. So here's A minor, open 2, 2, 1, open, top 5 strings, and then the 4s. The second is out here on the 4th fret of the 3rd string. Too many numbers. The second is on the 4th fret of the 3rd string. All right, yeah, that's a biatch. Can I say biatch? That's no bueno. Okay, no fun. All right, here's an easier way to play it. The only thing is it's out of the open position. Check this out. Open A, 7th fret, so not another A, 5th fret with your 1st finger, okay, and then the top 2 strings open. Listen to this one. Woo! That's money right there. And you know what you can do? I'm totally off subject here, but I was going to get to minor chords. I was going to do minor chord embellishments. You can take that A down to G sharps, and then that G sharp down to G, and then that G natural down to F sharp. It's a beautiful little. So if you have to sit on an A minor chord for a while, that would be a chord embellishment. And that's pretty darn easy. I mean, you're just moving this note down. And again, my favorite comment I've gotten, and I've gotten it more than once, but I remember the first time I got it, I love this comment. And it was like, I don't teach how to play music, I teach how to make music. So that's kind of why I show you this stuff. It's like, look, oh, here's something cool you could do, you know. And when you're handed a song and it's an A minor chord to sing, you know, you have to take it, you know, if you're in A minor or whatever, you have to take into consideration what's going to work. If it goes to E, if it's a pop tune or a Latin pop tune, you definitely may have an E major chord in there. So you can see where that could kind of come into play, maybe even in a kind of a pop context or some kind of A minor context. I like that. I like that voicing. It's certainly much easier than this one. Yeah, this one reminds me of, right? I like always like. Let's see. Oh no, that was the way it starts on the. I loved doing that part. I mean, it was just not that I ever performed that song. That song came out, I think, the year after I moved to California. So again, I wasn't in any top 40 band, so I didn't ever have to learn that stuff. But I did. One of the best lessons I had was I was taking guitar lessons from Carl Verheyen, and I remember I went over to his house and he had that album on his kind of on his record player table or whatever. I said, "You're listening to pop music?" Because the Police in my head, because I was a jazz snob, that was Synchronicity. That was their 5th record. That, you know, it was pop. It was on the pop radio. You know, why would you listen to pop music? 83. Yeah, so it was right around the time I moved to California. And he said, "Do you know how much money I make sounding like Andy Summers?" He goes, "I bought the same gear. I have the same, you know, I have a Telecaster like he has. I have the chorus stuff that he has." And he goes, "Yeah, people want me to sound like him more than just about anybody right now." And that, you know, of course, would change every 3 or 4 or 5 years. But good morning, Granddad's. Oh, hey, I know who you are. Hey, Brad. So, Brian, what's going on? Good to see you too. So the A we've done the 6/5 suspension, the 2/1 suspension, and then the 4/3 suspension, the suspended 4th. Okay. So these are all embellishments over this A chord, and I'm using the bar A chord for this. So again, I'm doing the 6 is here, the 2 is here, and the 4 is here. So basically, when you play them all at the same time, you're playing a B minor chord over A. You could call that B minor over A, or you could call it A sus 2, sus 4, sus 6. Now, John Mellencamp, did we learn? I don't remember if we learned. That happened. Thanks for deleting whoever got on that. That would have a sus 2 and a sus 4 to the A, and then 6/5. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, that record was huge. And that was a very, very influential record for me, because what happened was I got into the Police. I ended up buying every record backwards. I bought their whole catalog. I bought that record, and then I bought, what was it, Zenyatta Mandata, and then Ghost of the Machine, or is it the other way around? No, Ghost of the Machine, then Zenyatta Mandata, then Atlantis de Amor, and then I forget. I went backwards, and I ended up liking the previous record better than the one before, after it, which was interesting. But the other thing, that little lick, that's a great little fill or embellishment over an A chord. Very, very, very common. And all I'm doing is I'm hitting the E, which is the 5th. And Sam, you mentioned this. So we're going below the root note of the A chord, and we're hitting that F sharp, which is the 6th, and then to the A. And that's what Mellencamp, I think, goes. So, But those embellishments are great. Now, the A sus, a lot of times I might play it like this. Because then I want to go to the A and then the A2 with the open B string. And then back to A like we did in Anticipation by Carly Simon. Yeah, I need to do a lesson, Joseph, on harmonics. Yeah, I did some TikTok videos on harmonics. One of them got like 200,000 views. It was hilarious. Like my third TikTok, and Alex was like, "Dang it, how do you do that?" I said, "I don't know. I just put it up there." So yeah, so this A, yeah, like, there's a few tricks you can do. So if you're sitting on an A, that's a great. Generally, if you're in the key of E, that A sus isn't going to work. However, I will say it can work, but it's going to give you kind of a Rolling Stones or a bluesy vibe. Let's see if I can give you an example of it. Not from a song necessarily, but so we're in. So the susses work great on the 1 chord and on the 5 chord. Sus 4 works fine on those 2 chords. But on the A chord, that D note is not in the key of E. All right. So if I do my I need to do an embellishment on this A chord, I think I'll do a sus. It's going to be out of key. Doesn't mean it's not going to work. All right. George Martin might tell Paul McCartney it doesn't work, and then realize later, oh my gosh, Paul McCartney knew what he was doing. But check it out. So if I do it, I think of it as kind of a gospel-y thing. I'll do Michiko at church. We'll be playing the communion, and we'll do something. And I'll go to when we go to the 4 chord, I'll do that little sus thing on it, and it'll make Michiko smile. I always do it, and then look at her, and she's kind of smirking, knowing that I'm kind of implying a gospel thing. But here's what that sounds like in the context of E. Let me do it with a capo, just because I feel like it'll sound more like E if I. Very common 1-6-4-5 progression in E. But if when you do that sus over the 4 chord, it does have that kind of something like Rolling Stones, like Keith Richards would do with his open tuning. Morning, Gary. Good to see you. So that A chord. So if we were in the key of A, then that might be doing. You're implying kind of a G chord, which is not in the key of A, or a G note. You're adding that G note. It kind of implies that chord. And so that makes it a different thing. It makes it more rock and roll, bluesy. It's a little bit darker, maybe. It's not as, happy and go lucky. All of a sudden, you're like, wait, what? So anyway, so all that to say that sometimes the A sus works and sometimes it doesn't work. 2 chords almost always work. I think over this 3 chord, generally you wouldn't have a 2, but over the 1 chord, the 2 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord, and the 6 chord, you can always add that second. So for example, if I was in the key of E, all of those, the E, the F sharp minor, the A, the B, and the C sharp minor could all have a second. The 3 chord, that would be an A sharp, and that's not in the key of E. So that would be, it would imply kind of a Lydian thing. So we probably wouldn't go there. So that's a wildwood flower, sorry. All right, what are some other embellishments we could do over the A? Well, I showed you these other ones earlier. The A, play A however you want to play it, and then play bar all top 4 strings, and that gives you an A6 chord. And then if you want to, you can add the 7th out here, the major 7th. If you want to really reach out, that would be just an A chord. I might use that one if I want to hear that A on top. Easier on electric than it is on acoustic, but yeah, that major 7th is a pretty chord, and you could even do that's what is it? Yeah, feelings. I've got a feeling. Yep, or feelings. I think of feelings, but that's a minor. That would be A minor with the major 7th. Let's see. What are some other? So yeah, like I was okay. Sam, sorry. I was going to talk about the 5th inversion. So usually when you're doing a 5th inversion chord, a 2nd inversion chord, which is the 5th in the bass. Again, the notes in the A major chord are A, C sharp, and E. So if you put the E in the bass, technically you could do that, okay? But to me, that just sounds like a muddy A chord. It doesn't sound intentional enough. So here's what I do. It's a little bit of a stretch, Holly. So I don't know if you'll be able to do this one, but I play an A2 chord with these 2 fingers, okay? Because keep in mind, a 2nd inversion A chord, which is also called A/E. That's what the slash means. It's the first letter is the chord, the second letter is the bass note. If it just says A, then you can assume that there's going to be an A in the bass. But if it says A/E, they want you to put an E in the bass. Now, this wouldn't be wrong in that context, but to me, it's not very focused. I think part of the problem is you've got this 5th or 4th in the bottom, the A and the E below it, and it just doesn't sound very focused. So what I do is when someone says A over E, particularly if it's going to an E chord, I'll play this, which is open, 4th fret, 2nd fret, 2nd fret, open, open. So it's technically an A2 over E, or you could call it a 2nd inversion A chord, A2 chord. But you hear that? That wants to go to E. And the reason is you've got this C sharp out here that wants to resolve down to the B in the E chord, and you've got this A up here that wants to resolve down to the G sharp of the E chord. Here's your E chord, and if you wanted to get that down, you could just kind of practice it a million times. At first, you're going to be like, okay, this finger goes here. It's going to sound like that, and you go to E chord, and you're like, I can do the E chord. And you go back to the A2 with the pinky out there. And it's just a matter of, don't do 50 strums of this and then 50 strums of this, do 1 strum of each. Because you're not practicing strumming, you're practicing changing chords. So maximize your time. We have X number of days on this earth. So that would be an A, like I said, that would be an A2 over E chord. And again, when you do the susses, like I said on that Mellencamp song, he put a sus 4 and a sus 2 down at the same time. You could do a sus 6 and a sus 4, and that's be very common. You've heard this anytime you've heard the Rolling Stones. So it's not the same as, or it's both of those, both the 6th and the 4th, which is kind of cool. All right, let's talk about some different types of A chords. We've got A, and then here if we go open 2, 1, 2, open, that's A major 7. That's the same chord as this one, that pretty chord there. Purdy as Holly would say. Like Brock Purdy, the quarterback for San Francisco. Holy cow, what a kid. And that team has 3 good quarterbacks. What are they going to do? What are they going to do when their quarterbacks get better? Their first and second string quarterbacks get better. I don't know. Open. So and an open would be A7. We've all played that chord pretty much. That's a pretty common chord. Now, one thing I might do too over A, because sometimes, you know, over C we have the, or the G. Right? I think Brady's going to retire before the end of the year, in my opinion. We'll see. Well, if they make the playoffs, he won't, obviously. I don't know. He should never have come back. That was a bad. He lost his wife and family over it. Now maybe that's why he went back, because it was a lost cause anyway. I don't know. I feel bad for the guy, but I've never been a Brady fan when he was with the Packers or with the Patriots, but since he moved over to the, I'm pretty ambivalent about him. So we have those little hammer-on things, and sometimes over D, I'll hammer on and play the 4 and go to the 5, and that actually can. It's you're on that D so short. You almost don't. You register it, but you don't. You just what you hear is the hammer-on, and what you hear is, oh, this is a country song, or this is a folk song. When you, you could. Technically, that chord, open, 2, 2, open, I would call an A4 chord, A4. And so it's an A triad with a 4th added, and there's still an A in the bass. If I strum from the D, I would call that A over D, or maybe D major 9th, but A over D is better descriptor. But if I have the A in the bass, it's a pretty chord. Here's another way to play it. That's an adult chord right there. Here, the E one is like this. Let's see, that's 0, 7, 6, 2, 0, 0. Yes, that's right. The A2 over E was 0, 4, 2, 2, open, open. That's correct, Sam. Thank you. And then the A4 would be 0. I could write this one in, Sam, if you don't. If you want. Let's see. I would call it an A4 chord. That's kind of my naming, but it's X and then 0, 0, 2, 2, 0. That would be an A4 chord. The stretchy one I played was, if you're a young pup and you want to work on that, A4. But if you hurt your hands, don't blame me. It's your choice. Would be 7, 6, 4, 0. That's insane. The E4 that I played, which was even more insane. Yeah, I'm just showing off, Catherine. That's exactly right. Yeah, and I'm probably giving myself carpal tunnel syndrome or something at the same time. So yeah, I'll pay for showing off. That's the E4. I mean, I'll use it. I like I'll do. There's another D4. That's a D4. Sorry, an A4. This, on electric, I might get up and kind of get kind of an auto harp sound going. I mean, not an auto harp. Let me see. just ordered a hammer dulcimer. I don't know. I'll get it in a week or so. So yeah, so those are so that would be it. But hammering on that E note, just being on that D note for just a second. I don't know that maybe I would go back and forth. You know, and that could be a substitute for going from A to D. So say you had a song that was like, but that's just too, it's almost like, you know, 1 4 1 4. It's like so obvious, right? So, you know, I might keep that E string open. I'm not playing a D chord, I'm playing a D2 chord. Even though you see my finger here, it's not playing the E string. That's a little bit softer, it's a little bit less change. One of the things they teach you in voice leading in music theory and harmony class is to, if you don't have to change a note, don't change it. And that's what's kind of happening here with the A chord going to the D chord. The G string note stays the same, right? Remember, I've told you about that. If you're looking for a harmony, you can always pick a string and sing whatever note that is. And if you're going between A and D, you can just say, you know, whatever the other singer is singing, the lead singer is singing, that will work. It's almost like a background vocal. So it's a trick I use if I'm like, I need to come up with a harmony real fast. Not technically a harmony, but it implies a harmony. So, but if you were to go A to A4, that's about as subtle as you can get of a 1-4 progression. The most least subtle and most obvious would be every note that's changing needs to change to make it to the next major chord changes. But this is more like, it implies the D chord. That's an A chord, but this kind of implies a little bit of a D tonality because it has that D note in it. So that's a way you know, if you've written a song over it. True for any 1-4 progression, but if you're written a song over that, you could try to see if you can sing the same melody. That's kind of cool. I could turn that into a song. I could turn it into a song that somebody could write over. Yeah, so those are some embellishments over the A chord. Some other A chords that we could play would be, you know, you could take this like F major 7 shape and go up to the 5th fret. So you have 2 E's. You need to be in tune to play this chord, but I will use that one sometimes if I don't feel like going to this one. If I kind of want to spread my fingers out a little bit more. It's very similar sounding. Those 2 chords are very similar sounding. The only thing that's happening is on those same 4 strings that you're playing here, instead of doing a second inversion A triad, you're doing a root inversion A triad. And I could do it up here too with a 3rd inversion A triad. that's kind of a fun little trick you could do. You could do the same thing with the E chord. You're in root inversion, second inversion, sorry. Root. All of those are E chords, and just different. The middle voicing is a different inversion each time. So. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the E chord. The most obvious thing you can do with the E chord is sus it. You could also do the 6 sus. But it's easy to do the 6 sus up here on the second string. Go up to that A7 or E7. Now the thing about the sus 6 is it kind of implies the 4 chord. So in the key of E, the 4 chord would be A. So I'm just going E, A. Again, I'm doing the most basic, purest E, A change or 1-4 change in the key of E. If I just add the 6, I'm kind of implying it. Open that A string up. That gets a little muddy though. It's the same kind of thing. If you're just going to hammer on that second finger on the second fret of the 5th string, you know, don't be afraid of that. You're just hitting that A note for a second. It gives you a nice little kind of gallop to the feel. It's a great like a Western kind of thing. Almost Johnny Cashy. I can't do Johnny Cash. I can't do anybody. All right. Okay, I'm gonna take a break here for a second. Where's everybody? Does everybody stop chatting? Did we lose the internet here? We're at 35 current viewers. That's good. Whoa, did we get up to 43? Wow, I broke last week's record. I mean, I don't know what our ultimate record is, I forget, but last week we hit 42, so that's cool that we got to 43. Joseph was asking me about wildwood flower. Let me see if I can make this a little smaller so I can see. I'm not sure what he was asking me, but wildwood flowers in the key of C, which we have C, G, and F. My favorite warm-up out of E is I use growing was to use the pinky to hit the treble E and the B string on the second fret. Oh yeah. That'll be like a 6-9 chord. So on the E chord, we added the 6 here, okay, on the second string. If you put your pinky at the very top, first string, that's a great chord. And that's a great way to make that E chord kind of, you know, it's a sus2, but it's not a sus2. See, I think of a sus2 as being like you're getting rid of the root. Well, you can't really get rid of the root, but you're getting rid of something. But it's just an add to. Okay? But we can think of it as one of those. And if we were to sus all of the 2, 4, and 6 of the E chord, it would be this, which is really cool. David Gates, and that chord is open, 4, 4, 2, open, open. And what that is here's starting on the third string, that's an A, which is the sus4 of the E chord. Here on the fourth string is the F sharp, which is a sus2 of the E chord. And then here's the C sharp, which is the sus6, or the 6 of the. So we're doing that big thing where we're going. Yeah, in a sus chord, yeah. So generally when everyone says sus chord, it's just the sus. That's shorthand for sus4. And usually always when I say sus4, I mean don't play the third. it poses an interesting dilemma for me sometimes, because sometimes you're playing an A minor and you want a sus4, so that's A sus, but you're going in A minor. Usually I think of A sus as going to A major, but it doesn't have to. A sus doesn't have any third in it, so there's no major or minor tonality. So you could go A sus to A, or A sus to A minor. Doesn't really matter. In fact, it's a nice embellishment to the A minor chord to add that sus, or the sus4. But I'll use the term sus2 and sus6 when we're talking about it theoretically, particularly when I look at this A chord, or when I'm talking about slide. Like if I'm in open G or something and I'm playing slide, I think of, here's the triad. I'm seeing this D triad here, and then there's the 2, and there's the 4 and the 2 and the 6. I'm visualizing that little minor shape above this bar D shape. I know all those notes are going to work, and the same thing's true when I'm visualizing this A chord. I just think of that as a sus6, a sus2, a sus4, but I wouldn't call those chords. I think of those notes as being suspended notes, if that makes sense. And welcome, Gwar fan. Oh, Gwar. Oh yeah, I used to see Gwar at the NAMM show every year. They were kind of crazy because they'd be like wearing boots this high, and all their makeup and all the the stuff. Pretty fun. I was like, wow, that's a lot of work. And man, my feet at the end of the NAMM show are just killing me. I can't imagine what those guys feel like at the end of the day. It's like they just must stand under a hot shower for an hour and a half. I don't know. It's like, boy, that's a lot of work. Okay, so we're on the E chord. Yeah, so I like that. You can add the 7th. That might work or might not work. If you're in the key of E, though, it's probably not going to work. That 7th again is going to take it in the blues direction. It's going to take it into a kind of gospel-y or rock, kind of a rock and roll kind of vibe, but then that's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe what you want to do. Oh yeah, I pinned it. You should see the Discord link up there, the join link at the top. I pinned it, so you shouldn't have to scroll all the way up. Yeah, so you get that sus, the E sus, the 6. So you have the 4 to 3, 6 to 5, 2 to 1. And the 2 sus, you can also go. I can hear the 2 going up to 3 as much as I can hear the 2 going down to the 1. Doing there's the bottom 2 strings. There's E there, and I'm going up to the 2, down to the root, down to the 1, 2, 1, or 2 to the 3. I can go 2. If I'm in E minor. Yeah, almost free falling. The free falling is that D sus kind of thing. Well, they're capo. I think it's in F. Is that right? So yeah, some embellishments over E. All right, let's talk about maybe how to get from A to E. All right. So if we're going A chord, do that walk down. That would be a very common bass player walk down. I'm hitting the A chord, or A bass note, then the chord, and then I'm hitting the G sharp, F sharp, and an E. So you can think of 1 beat each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Do the opposite going back. exercise. So basically, I could think of it, maybe I should have started on the E chord since we were talking about the E chord. It definitely has that Johnny Cash vibe to it, doesn't it? Yeah, so that would be, I would call that a fill. That would get you, you know. Now you could also maybe go. That would be a little bit more, like a little bluesier, a little bit slinkier in what I'm doing there. Instead of playing F sharp, I'm starting on the G and I'm going chromatic up to the A. So if we were just to play the bottom string, go, and then coming down, I'm not going chromatic down like that. I'm going to go G natural to F sharp to E. So it's not quite as happy as. Now you go. And that G isn't in the key of E, so it sounds a little out, but it also is a tension that you resolve in the case of going up to the G sharp. It's almost like you're almost doing like a blues lick. Yeah. You know, it's definitely a lot more momentum in that kind of thinking, and you don't have to do that every time you do it. Notice I'm using a very choked kind of rhythms, because I'm not even playing an E chord, I'm just doing like a E power chord. If I played too many strings, it would sound like an E sus chord, or an E sus with a 6 added, or an E sus with a 9th added and 6 added. I'm not doing that. I'm just playing the bottom 3 strings. And once you have it down at a slow tempo, then you can start to pick up the tempo. Let's see. Chord scratch. Yep. Yep, that's right. The chord scratch. And I'm always doing that. And not even intentionally. It's like just, oh. But you're the garage. Jack's got a garage band. He's the garage in the garage band, right, Jack? So, now fills. Let me go. Let's see. We can talk about E. I mean, when I think of fills, oftentimes I think of blues fills. Let me give you a fun blues lick or fill in E. Okay. So what we're gonna do? We got an E chord here. What I'm gonna do is I want to go up. I want to go here to the 4th fret of the 3rd string and 4th fret of the 1st string. And I'm going to think of triplets. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. But then what you're going to do is you hit the 4th fret, and you can even hit that open B string. If you get sloppy, you can hit that. You can't tell because I'm hitting 2 because of the same note. Those are both Bs. But I'm going to take that 6th, this interval is called a 6th, no quiz, don't worry, there won't be a quiz on this, down a fret, do that little. Go to the E chord. And that's a fun way to play. You could almost think of that as a turnaround in E. So if you're playing a blues, and then you go there. And that's not exactly the best way to play the best placement of a. I might do it something like that. Go into the 5 chord and then back to there. But that's one of them. So that's 4 4 3 3 2 2 1 0. And you want to think of it as here's the beat 2 3 4 1 triplet 2 triplet 3 triplet 4 triplet. It's kind of. Here's another one you could do. You could do something like that one. And that is 4th fret on the 3rd string and 3rd fret on the 2nd string, and then with the open E string. So right here, right now, you're implying an E7 chord. You've got the 5th, you got the dominant 7th, and you got the root. And then all of a sudden, everything gets messed up. Now you've got the flat 5 and the 6th, and then it gets even worse. You got the 4 and the sharp 5 with the E on top again. And you can bring that right into the E chord. I mean, I guess it's kind of a fill over an E chord. Again, when I talk about fills, there's 2 types of fills or riffs. You could play over a chord or between the chords, meaning like often like this thing. That is a lick you use to connect one chord to another. Okay, a lick that I might do. You know, that would be a riff I did over the E chord. That's just a riff over the E chord. But a riff that connects the chord might be, you know, that would be a riff that that is like a bridge from E to A. And the other lick might be considered like a monument to E. And then if you do, maybe you come up with find a way to get from, you know, E, something like that might be a way to get from E to A in a lick. My brain's not working right now. Maybe, okay, so that might be E. See what I do is that's a lick over E, but then I kind of quoted it and created a lick that led me to the A chord. Your timing has to be good so that you land on that, you know, note there when you get to the E chord, the A chord. Sorry, I'm tired. Can you tell? Johnny Cash again. More Johnny Cash. And when you do that over the E chord, when you hammer on that 2nd string, the 2nd fret, that also kind of tells you that an A chord is coming. That could be a little transitional thing. So, all right. So what else is going on? Let's see. Ooh, I'm tired. What did I got work to do today too. So is it going to rain anymore today, Joseph? All right. Boop, boom, boom, boom. There we go. We may be done for a few days. It's supposed to rain later this week, which is, oh, no, they got rid of that. But boy, cold. High of 51 today. Holy cow. That's cold for us. That's Los Angeles. The lows are getting down into the low 30s. We may get snow. How crazy would that be? I've never seen snow in LA since I've been here 40 years. I've seen snow on the mountains, and in Pasadena City Hall is at like 800 feet, I think. And the top of Mount Wilson is 6,000 feet. So there are oftentimes, the whole winter you'd have snow on the top 2,000 feet of Mount Wilson, like 4,000 feet up or whatever. And then sometimes it would come all the way down to almost where you can't see where it ends. And that would be basically 2,000 feet down or even 1,500 feet down. And if it's this cold, it could definitely do that. I'm sure if I went over to Pasadena and looked at Mount Wilson, there would be snow on it right now. In fact, I got to be there this week. But the hills around the valley are much lower. They're hills. They're not really mountains. To the south of the valley is the Hollywood Hills. So on this side you've got Sherman Oaks, and on the other side you have Beverly Hills. And then to the north of us are just some low hills. In fact, we even climbed these hills; those are not high at all. To the west, there's some modest hills, and to the east, again modest hills. There's nothing very. San Gabriel Valley is very different than the San Fernando Valley, and they're only not even a half an hour from each other. The San Gabriel Valley has the San Gabriel Mountains to the north of it, and yeah, so the entire San Gabriel Valley could see snow every day. And sometimes you could see snow in July if you could see Mount Baldy. You could see Mount Baldy, which is out past San Bernardino and in up high. It'll have snow sometimes year round up there, but you have to have a pretty good. Yeah, it snows. It can definitely snow, but we just had 3 days of rain, which is great. My pool is like all the way full. Beth and I are still cold plunging every night. Holy cow! I'm like, I can't catch my breath for 20 seconds. It takes me 20 seconds to catch my breath. Hey, Pepper is in the house. Are they alive with music? Oh, the hills. Yes, the hills are alive with the sound of music. Well, the Hollywood Hills probably are. In fact, to the east and south of me would be like Laurel Canyon Boulevard and Laurel Canyon, which is where the Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and Linda Ronstadt and even the Beach Boys lived there for a while, and the Joni Mitchell is a famous resident of Laurel Canyon. I've got some friends that live up there, sometimes in that neighborhood. Yeah, it is a rush. Supposed to be a lot of benefits to it, and it's not as cold as like the ice baths that football players take, because ice baths, that's literally going to be 32 degrees or below, because the ice can make the water colder. Salt water in particular can be below freezing and not freeze. That's what's so dangerous about it. So I've been measuring our pool. The coldest it's been so far is 50 degrees. A cold plunge tub, usually I think the setting is 39 degrees is standard. So we're still a good 11 degrees above that. But yeah, when we first get under, it's like, oh my goodness. It's like, oh. And then we stay. Now we're up to 2.5 minutes of being under peppery poo. You've got loved ones here on this live chat, Pepper. Everybody misses you. Did you get the Mexican? No, I haven't gotten that Mexican guitar fixed yet. No, that reminds me. I need to. I'll try to do that today. I'll send a picture to my guitar tech and say, hey, can you fix this? I'm just gonna have them bolted on. I'm gonna keep the bridge. I think I'm just gonna have them go ahead and bolt it. It's not a tone instrument. It's more of a flavor instrument, so it doesn't have to be like amazing tone. But I'm pretty upset with that. I'm never gonna buy another Cordova instrument. So I'm not afraid to say that here because the tuners, when I was tuning the guitar up, they broke. The cheap plastic tuners on one side. So I replaced that one side, found tuners. I had some extra tuners from something, put them on there. They fit in there. I kind of got them to work. And then I was tuning the other side, and the tuner on that side broke. So I had to replace those tuners too. In fact, at that point, I ordered a new set, so I had a matched pair that would work for it. And then just I looked at it one day. I didn't even hear it happen. It must have been in bed or something. And the bridge came off. It's like, really? It's supposed to be tuned up a fourth, so it's the pitch of it. It's a half. Technically, it's a half-size classical guitar, and the pitch is supposed to be that. Which is nice because that means you can easily access, on classical guitar, it's hard to play those high notes. So it's easy to access, but it's a requinto. And it's a Mexican instrument that they would commonly play. Probably that's not as common of an instrument as, say, maybe, I've got a Quattro, but there's another one that is more common. I'm trying to think of the name of it, but I should get one of those. I just did order a hammer dulcimer, so I'm getting that. Oh yeah, Sam, definitely. An older Cordova was probably made in Spain, but This one was not. I don't think. I mean, it was so cheap, and that's partly my fault for buying something so cheap. But even cheap things, I use a lot of cheap guitars. They don't fall apart on me. I've never had a Squire fall apart on me. In fact, I got a Squire here that I got to string up with my. I got a bunch of D strings that I'm going to use to string it up to have a lower cluster guitar. So I thought that would be kind of fun to have a cluster guitar that's down an octave from the one I have. What else is going on here? Let's see. Yeah, I've been working on some stuff with Taboo from Black Eyed Peas. I've got a Lifetime movie coming this week. I've got another TV series that I'm working on with a friend. It's a comedy, and I don't know where it's going to air, but I think they've done 6 or 8 episodes. So I think he's just writing everything. He's probably going to do all the guitar parts in all 6 episodes in one session. Because there's a lot of what we call bumpers. Bumpers are the music that take you into commercial and then it bring you out of commercial. Those are called bumpers. And they may be 2 seconds, they may be 10 seconds. Usually 2 to 5 seconds or something like that. Oh, you're playing a Celtic service at church on Sunday. Oh, fun. First time I play in front of people. Lucky there are other guitars to cover my... Yeah, that's fun. Are you playing Greensleeves or something like that? Or is it a Celtic church or is it a... Oh, it's a service where they do Celtic music. That's fun. That's cool. I remember... I don't think they did any Celtic services. That would be fun. But I remember I did a clinic at Rick Warren's church in Orange County, and it was just for the guitar players at his church. And I'm like, well, how many guitar players do they have? And there were 200 people at that clinic. I'm like, why do you have so many guitar players at this church? And they said, well, because they have like 19 campuses, different buildings. And every one of them has a different style of music. So you can, it's the same message because they're streaming it, like a video, or they're either playing it on a DVD or something, or maybe they're streaming it live, like a closed circuit kind of thing. But there was one that was like a 50s rock and roll worship. And then there was one that was like Hawaiian worship. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And then there was one that was like gospel. And then there was one that was like, I don't know, country worship. I'm sure they did. I didn't even get the list of all the different genres. But they did, because they had guitar players in rotation at each one of those venues, that ended up with something like, and then they opened it to anybody that played guitar. They had something like 200 people show up. That was the clinic I was teaching when I found out that Michael Jackson passed away. That was weird. That was a very surreal moment because I had mentioned his name in relation to my friend who sang backgrounds for him. I said, "Oh, my friend Judith sings backgrounds for Michael Jackson," and somebody said, literally the next second said, "I just got a text that Michael Jackson died." It's like somebody on the other side of the room. Me too. I'm like, what? Oh yeah, Dadgad. Um, which yeah, Dadgad. No, yeah, it's Celtic players often. That's kind of the origin of the Dadgad, is it not? I'm pretty sure that's a lot of the Celtic players. That's when I said that like 10% of the Dadgad players play only in Dadgad. It's probably because they're Celtic, they're Irish guitarists, and that's just all they ever play in. It certainly is nice. Um, oh wow, you saw Cabrillo Beach covered in snow. That's crazy. It could totally happen. I could see it happening if we have some more weather fronts move in. As cold as it's been, I'm not looking forward to my heating bill, but I've got the heat turned down pretty low. It's a 9+ channel. Dad gag. um, yeah, put the music up on Discord later. That'd be nice. I'd be curious. Are you playing more than one song? It's like a whole worship set, Celtic style, like 3 or 4 songs. It'd be kind of cool. Um, yeah, and Bruce, I will put the this from this video here. Hold on, let me give you the. I can throw these up on. Let me see here. So that's the jazzy chords in Dadgad. I came up with some more, so I'm going to do another. I may shoot another video today. I may do that today. I thought it was an easy video to shoot, but it took a long time to create those diagrams. And so, but it's something I can do while we're watching TV or something like that. So I may go ahead and do that and then just chip away at it and release it whenever I'm done with it. The diagrams take a while, but I'll post those in Discord. I just have to remember because they're on my laptop and they're not here on this computer. So I can drag them over to Discord from the laptop, no problem. I just have to remember to do it. So let's see. Yeah, and my understanding, I mean, Joseph, I think you're a little older than I am, but part of the reason why the whole beach blanket bingo movies kind of became a big thing, or you know, were filmed so much in California, was like from 55 to 65, there was almost perpetual overcast at the beaches. And so it's perfect for filming. When the sun's out, it's really difficult because everybody's squinting and it's just too much light and everything. It's oversaturated. It's really hard to see the everything. You're trying to do camera work. It's really hard when the sun's really bright. But if it's overcast, my understanding, it was kind of cold out there for some of those movies. And I'm walking around today, I can see. Now, the funny thing is that, like, I mean, Jack lives in Redondo, and our son Jack lives in Redondo, and their range of weather temperatures is much narrower than ours, particularly in the summer. Like, we could hit 110 and then 70 at night, and he'll be at like 80 and 70, or he'll hit, like, it'll be 82 and 74 or something. He has like an 8-degree range because he's by the ocean, and the ocean just keeps everything kind of temperate. And so that's probably, that's oftentimes the marine layer won't burn off until noon anyway in the average summer in California. So, oh, I bet. Huge surf. Yeah. Were you a surfer, Joseph? Something tells me you were. Um, Dadgad, whatever. It's still PG. Let's see. What else is going on? Oh, so chord embellishments, fills, and riffs. And riffs. So when I think of riffs, to getting back on the lesson for just a little bit longer, then we'll stop. I really, when I'm soloing, I generally am using like the caged method. So what you might do is start to memorize the different positions of the cage shapes for the chords that you want to come up with a riff over. So let's just keep it simple and just say one chord here. We're not going to do a whole song. We just do one chord, and that would be E. So an E major chord here, we have the E form. Okay. The next form is going to be the D. If you look at the word caged, C-A-G-E-D, if you're already at the E chord, you're already at the E form. The one after E is D. So what you want to do is you want to look for a D shape that's an E chord. Well, there's D, D sharp. Oh, there it is, right there. Okay. So if you play a D shape and go up 2 frets, that's an E chord. Now don't play the D string, just the top 3 strings. Okay. But if you want, you could visualize, even more if you want to play it with these three fingers and then maybe bar. Okay. But basically. So what that shape allows me is I see the shape, I see, I could do a sus4, I could do the 2, I could do the 6, I could do a pentatonic, I could do a diatonic. In other words, I associate different scales with the different shapes. And so that's one of the things you start to learn as you develop the cage method. And we've been talking about, I think the very first 12 lessons I talked about was the cage method when I started doing the live streams, but I've got videos on it. Okay, so after D would be, we go back to the beginning of the word, we have C. So the next shape, well, it's this. There's the, you can see a C shape, see the C chord? C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. So, in fact, I'm almost more thinking, when I was doing those scales, I was almost really more in a C shape. If I want to think D, I might be. I might think more below it. So, and then the next one would be the A form, which is right here. Very, very useful for coming up with rhythm ideas. Okay, so like if the chord progression is A, E to B, I might do something like this. So yeah, I'm basically going from E to A, like an A2 chord, and then E to B, a B triad, all right around this E form, or the A form E chord. I have a question from Ralph. Hey Ralph, nice to meet you. Sir, can you show us how to play fast triplets and fast triplet rolls like George Benson? What? So he does that. Is that what you're talking about? Let's see, what would that be? I think of that. I mean, in that, like, for example, what he's doing there, in fact, I can kind of tie it into what we're talking about as a fill. but we're going to be talking about the key of D. D major 7, sexy chord there. Okay? He's basically, even though that C natural is not in there, he's just on it for a second, sliding up to C sharp, and then he's going up to the E. So he's creating this kind of major ninth kind of really pretty, you know, kind of. And then the song goes to B minor, still works over that, and it goes to E minor. That's still, it's kind of weird. The E's fine, but that C natural is a little bit minor 6E. But then it goes to the 5 chord, and that's totally fine. You're playing the 3rd and the 5th of the 5 chord. But I'm not sure. Again, the context is hard because I don't have the jazz chords playing behind me. But in E major, you might do it up a fret, 2 frets, to create that jazzy major 9th sound. There. Or you could play it on the, if you want, sounds more country. If I'm going to flat 3rd to the 3rd to the 5th. So it's just funny because you choose your notes and you go from country or bluesy to jazzy. Depending on which notes you choose, that makes a big difference. Again, that's one of those things where I talk about you could do the same notes and the context is makes it sound like country versus rock or jazz or blues or whatever. So, or folk or. But I don't know if that answers your question at all. I love George Benson. It's a huge influence on me. You know, I wanted to be able to play like him. He's an amazing player. I mean, his facility at his peak was, probably still pretty good. But his facility at the peak, the Breezin' record and like Ode to Kudu or Kodu, I don't know. How do you know how to say something when it's an instrumental? If he doesn't sing it, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think it's Ode to Kudu, one of my favorite tracks off of that on Broadway record, which was a double live album. I think was that at the Roxy? Where did he record that? Maybe that was at the Blue Note. I think it was at the Roxy though, or something. It was like L.A. No, it was Weekend in L.A. is what the name of the album was. Pink Elevators. Oh, that 9th chord. So this is a great 9th chord, the E. This is one of them. I'll show you 2 of them. Okay, E9, E major 9. Here it is right here. I mean, there's a million ways to play it, but here, let's see, let me write E major 9 first. E major 9, nothing, and then was a 7, 6, 8, 7, and then nothing. But you could, because it's E, you could play the open E strings, but this way it's movable. Okay, another way you can play, I did this, I think I did this one, it's not easy, but, and this one's going to be a little more difficult to type out because it's going to have 2-digit numbers in it, but I like this one a lot. Thanks, Bruce. Let's see, I'm going to play open, and then 11th fret, let's see, I'm going to put spaces in between all these. 11th fret, 14th fret, 11th fret, 12th fret, 11th fret. And that's a really cool E major 9. It's a lot easier on it. Like I could do it with A. There is no, oh no, right here is the root. So if you know the notes on your D string, which again, you should really know all the notes on your fretboard. But if you want to play a B flat major 9th, that's a great one right there. So it'd be 5, 8, 5, 6, and then 5. And there's a B flat here. Usually you have a bass player who's playing that note. So, but the E one is cool because you can get that low E in there, but it's hard to play on. But George would also go into blues, right? We've talked about this, where he'd be playing a very, very diatonic thing over the D, you know, for example, Breezin'. Right? He'd be, I mean, you can't get more diatonic than that. Major, you know. And then he'd go into that flat third, and it's just like, oh, that's just the juxtaposition of the major and the minor on top of each other. It's so funny because Arvo Part, one of my favorite composers, did the Los Angeles. He wrote a symphony called the Los Angeles Symphony, and it debuted here in Los Angeles years ago at Disney Hall. And he juxtaposed A major over A minor, and kind of the two scales and keys were just kind of interwoven throughout the entire piece. It's a beautiful, it's probably 35 minutes, 40 minutes. I don't know. It's pretty long. It's beautiful though. I really like Arvo. But that, you know, George has been doing it for a while. So to go back and forth between D major and then go into that little blues lick it's just super cool. And so, and blues almost always works in any context. If you're like, what do I do over this? Just start with the blues. You know, someone's playing a jazzy. And then you might find and that's again, if you don't really know how to what to solo over, how to approach a solo, start with the blues and see where you go. And the other thing you start with is learn the melody. I mean, if you really want to just do something that you know is going to work, just play the melody. If it's the same chord progression as the chorus, learn the melody from the chorus and just play that, and then play it the second. You know, practice that and get the melody down, and then do the melody with embellishments. So if it goes to the root, go to the second, then the root, or go to the root, the second, to back to the root, or if the melody's on the third, then you can maybe go to the flat third and kind of sneak into it. And then once you start getting embellishments, pretty soon you're doing a theme and variations. And once you've got that far, you can get so far away from the original melody that no one's going to peg it as the melody. And it's just going to sound like you're soloing and creating, because that's what improvisation is about, is spontaneously creating melodies. And not everybody can do that. Last weekend I played on a record, Christmas thing. I know it sounds late, but they do it every December. And they just write original Christmas songs and record them in a certain style. And we were doing kind of a, 50s, 60s Nashville vibe. And they brought in a cellist from the London or the LA Phil, and they were all excited to have him. And he's an amazing musician, and he, of course, had $1 million cello and everything. But they just had chord charts, and so he really didn't quite know how to approach that. Oops, what's going on? Oh, Sweetwater. I'll call him back in a little bit. So he didn't quite know how to approach the tune because it was just chord charts. And if you think about cello, in an orchestra, the cello is not the lowest thing. The basses are. And of course, there's tubas and there's bass trombones. There's a lot of instruments that are going to play the roots of the chords as the song goes by, the piece goes by. The basses tend to cover the bottom end there. And but in this context, in a kind of a bluegrass context, he was the lowest instrument. But he kept playing thirds and fifths, and I'm like, Yeah, you might want to stick to roots because you're the lowest instrument here. I know that's not normal for you, but he was totally cool. He was just like, because he was like going, I don't know what I'm doing. I said, well, try this, because they didn't have any music written for him. Now they had music for him later. They were going to have him play as an overdub, but he was just sitting in on the session. And I mean, you can go to Sarah Drew's Instagram, Sarah Drew, Sarah Drew, I think, her Instagram, and you can kind of see a little snippet of it, of us recording. She was there. She's in she's Emily in Grey's Anatomy. I'm not. Do anybody watch Grey's Anatomy? Anyway, she's one of the people I think has been part of it from day one. This is my first year doing it, and Alex has been doing it for about 3 or 4 years. But they brought me in, and you know, it's a lot of fun. It doesn't pay anything. That's not what it's about. It's just about being in a big house, eating a bunch of good food, and hey, Metal Gaming, what's going on? I'm about to end the lesson here, so let's see how many people do we have. Of course, we'll probably get a spike of people. No, we're kind of settling at around 30. But good, we hit 44. We hit 43 a couple times here, so good solid time. I hope you're getting something from this. Hope I'm not meandering too much. I will be continuing to talk about chord embellishments, things like that. We'll probably start doing some minor chords next week. I already showed you a couple things, but you know, and I'll just, as I think of them, I don't know. It's going to be kind of. Thanks, Ralph. Y'all try one chord. Oh, yep. That's like an augmented ninth. So that would be C, like for example, C, E, G sharp, and D. So that G sharp to D, which is a tritone. Yeah, that's a nice voicing. I normally when I see that, I think of like that would be. Oh, good, David. Thank you. Yeah, so again, it is kind of stream of consciousness anyway. I don't really have a plan when I sit down to teach these things, but I get asked a lot, hey, can you show me how to do some fills? You know, I want to make my rhythm playing more interesting. And that's kind of what we're talking about. Just how to make your rhythm playing more interesting. I'll try to concentrate more on that, like incorporating some of this stuff into strumming grooves. And that's kind of what the chord embellishments are for. When we're talking about E, whatever the strumming pattern is, to make some changes. That kind of thing, that was what I was thinking of when I'm showing you some of these chord embellishments, but I probably didn't model it very much, and so I'll try to model it more. We'll refine this. Like I said, at some point I may do a series of videos where it's a much more organized thought process. Oftentimes I try things out on you as guinea pigs, but if I do a video, it's usually a lot more thought out, and then I will also do like lots of graphics. And so it's a lot more involved than this. Although in the past, when we've done mystery songs or we've done bluegrass and stuff, I have to do a lot of prep work for these lessons. But right now in this series, I'm not going to be really doing much prep work. I'm not going to stress that too much because that makes it more difficult to do these. So, boom, boom, boom. Yes. Inversions are, yeah, and the little trick with it, not chord inversions, but interval inversions. He's talking about intervals. If you're going from a major second, the inversion of a major second is a minor seventh. Well, you basically, if it's major, the inversion is going to be minor, and the two numbers should add up to 9. So you subtract from 9. So for example, like a major 6, the inversion would be a minor third. And all that is if we go from A to C sharp, which is a major 6, then C sharp to A to finish off that to go the full octave is a minor third. Does it serve a purpose to know this? Yeah, sure. But is it critical to know that? No, you probably know it intrinsically without even thinking about it. Some of these, oh, that's a major sound. Oh, that's a minor sound. Oh, that's weird because that's a major sound on top of, if I go A to F, that's a kind of pseudo minor sound. But if I go F to A, that's a kind of a pseudo major sound. One is a minor 6 and the other is a major third. So you kind of intrinsically know it. The turnarounds are fun and easy to learn. I do not have a lesson of turnarounds. You know what? I need to sit down and so the turnaround needs to serve a purpose, Holly. And usually in blues, it's to set up that 5 chord. So there's so many fun little turnarounds, and I could make up a bunch of them, but when you're playing the blues, it's a 12 bar. There's 1 bar, 2, 3, 4. Okay. There's the 5th bar, 6th bar, back to the 1 chord. So far we've only gone 1, 4. Now here comes the 5 chord. That's usually called a turnaround. So yeah, we could sit down. I could show you some of those. That would definitely come under the category of a riff or a fill. Again, the difference. I always think of riffs as being something that's on top of someone else playing guitar. So I would think of that more as a fill, right? It's filling a gap. And you'll notice that I started the 5 chord not on a downbeat because you want to resolve to the E, so it's like bum. There's the downbeat. There's the 5. Yeah, so and then that one let's see. I have to think of some, but it's the same as this one. Usually, if you find anything that works over the E chord, maybe if it's got to be up the neck so you can take it down. Let's see, what would be another thing? I don't know. I'll have to think about it. I'm sure there's YouTube videos out there of turnarounds. The hard part is just getting the timing right. Hit 1, 2, 3, 4, E. Da 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 da, ba ba, right? And that would be the most stereotypical, almost corny landing, ba bum bum, whatever. But yeah, H7. Yes, I know where you're from, Metal Gaming. You're in Germany. The H chord. Yes, play that H7. Isn't that funny? I told you about that, right? That's, you guys, B7 is actually B flat 7 in Germany, and H7 is B7. It's so Bach could spell his name in music. Isn't that the funniest thing? I learned that the hard way. I was doing a session for a German producer, and the charts were like, song was an F and it had a B chord in it. And I'm like, okay, this is a typo. It means B flat, right? And the bass player said, that is B flat. I said, no, it says B. And he goes, that's B flat. I said, yeah, no, I understand it's B flat. It's supposed to be B flat, but it's written B. He goes, that's in Germany, that's B flat. I went, what? I had no idea. It was like, yeah, if they want B, they put H. What? I had no idea. It was like, that doesn't, okay. And he said, yeah, so Bach could spell his name. I said, oh, you're kidding. B-A-C-H, really? So B flat, A, C, D, B. Oh, and it just stuck. Bach died in 1750. It's still, you want to have an influence. So I'm just gonna call the A chord now. I'm just gonna call it exclamation mark. That's an A chord from now on. See if it catches on. So, yeah. Yep. So metal gaming knows what I'm talking about. All right, everybody. God bless you. Thank you so much for hanging around. Joseph, uh, uh, thanks for the coin. Also, you too, Bob. I really appreciate that. Every little bit helps and keeps that revenue up on a monthly basis. Goes, oh, I should keep doing the YouTube thing. So, like I said, that doesn't hurt. It's funny because we're still like sitting right here in the 30s, 35. I hate to go away. But I've got work to do, and so I got Sweetwater called me for some reason, but I don't think it's any big deal. Brad, good to see you. Thanks so much. A good time the other night, Friday night. We had a great time. I will talk to you. Mini story time. Well, I just told you the mini story. I guess it was the German chart thing. I ran out of stories. I told you all my stories through COVID. But yeah, so if you go to Sarah, I think it's the Sarah Drew. I think she posted on her Instagram a little video. Let's see if it's up there. I think it's, yeah, you should. I don't know how often she posts and how often or how fast it's going to get buried, but she's got 4 million followers. I just turned on my Wi-Fi, so it's not loading very quick. Okay, so it's the one where she's wearing headphones, I think. Yeah, you can see me playing guitar there. So if you're a fan of what show is she on? Grey's Anatomy, which I've never actually even seen an episode of Grey's Anatomy. But she's on that. She's on a bunch of things. Rainy Days and Mondays. That's right. Today was a Monday. That's a great song. Yeah, that's a great song. So many good songs. Well, she had so many great songs. They were Paul Williams. I think, did he write Rainy Days and Mondays? You guys keep getting me sidetracked here. Rainy Days and Mondays. There was a documentary about Paul Simon that I watched. It was interesting. LA session musicians, yeah. Paul Simon wrote it. I mean, Paul Williams wrote it. And Roger Nichols. Really? Roger Nichols wrote that. Roger Nichols is a famous engineer. I never knew him as a song, or maybe it's a different person. Oh, composer and songwriter. This is a different guy. He wrote many songs with Tony Asher and Bill Lane. Okay. Van Dyke Parks. I know Van Dyke Parks. Curtis Mayfield. That's cool. Yeah. Paul Williams wrote some great songs. I mean, Old Fashioned Love Song, he wrote that. Out of the Country. Helen Red's You and Me Against the World. We've Only Just Begun. Oh, he wrote the opening theme for Love Boat. Yeah, I forget the documentary. It was like, I feel like the documentary was kind of about him trying to get legitimacy again, or not making money, or not getting royalties, or, the problem with this business is that you can make a lot of money really fast, and then it stops coming in. So you have to be really smart with your career and your money. If you make a bunch of money, the smart people. It's always amazing to me how, some people that just did a few things in the 60s and 70s, actors, they own property, they own they just put the money into California real estate, and they did so well that they're very wealthy. And they're not even that famous, but you're like, wow, Now, Bob Hope, he was very famous, and he was one of the biggest landowners in the world, and owned a lot of land. In fact, I think he owned the land that Burbank Airport's built on, and he donated it or sold it, and they named the airport after him. So Burbank Airport is technically the Bob Hope Airport. But yeah, there, a lot of land around here was that Bob Hope owned. So but yeah, I can't remember the documentary, but yeah, it's probably listed there. I watched it and it was kind of sad, but and my royalty thing, the way because probably a good chunk of my income is from royalties. It's spread around in so many different places, but I still have to keep the pipeline filled. So as soon as I stop writing new music, eventually the shows and the music that I do have is going to get less and less spins. You may have a resurgence at some point. I remember I talked to the guy, I ran into a songwriter at a guitar store in Hollywood one time, and I said, oh really, have you written anything? And his friend said, oh, he wrote Let's Get Physical by Olivia Newton-John. And I said, oh, well, that's cool. I said, that was a big hit in the 80s. I said, are you seeing a resurgence right now? Because like everything 80s, this was like 15 years ago. Everything 80s is really hip and it's starting to get played on the radio again. And he said, no, that song has been, essentially he said that song's been evergreen because because it's been used by every gym in America has used it as their commercial theme. So let's get physical. So he says I've been making the same amount of money from that song from almost the day it came out to today. I said that's crazy, and I think that's true about why people write songs like Christmas songs or they're and it's really rare to have a new Christmas song become a standard. But Stevie Wonder wrote I just called to say I love you. I think there's songs that they're written to try to like be perpetually played every Valentine's Day. If you have a song like that, I mean, there's that movie with Hugh Grant where he's the son of a guy who wrote like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and he doesn't he has no purpose in life because that stupid song makes enough money for him to live on. And his parents passed away, and he's an only child, I guess, or I think he has a sister or something. But yeah, he doesn't need anything. And so that's a bad place to be. So that's why I keep writing and keep working. I don't want to be like that. So anyway, it's a John Wayne Airport. Yeah, John Wayne. Yeah, he actually was a big star too, and probably was really smart with his money. So all right, let's take this up again on Monday next week. Everybody have a great week and a great weekend, and I'll see you next Monday. Okay.